Now that we know that, I want to go over with you on how I actually put a meal plan together with regards to protein. So I'm only covering protein. That's what we were talking about. So you should know that if you want to increase muscle mass, you have to eat carbohydrates. You also have to eat fat. Fat is an essential nutrient. Carbohydrates are not, but they actually help in your hypertrophy efforts. They actually increase several of genes which control for hypertrophy. More on that later. But for the purpose of this meal plan, we will only talk about protein. So we have two different goals. One is cutting and the other is bulking. So shred it, get it free now. Go to the website, you can download it for free. The meal plan to get shredded, and the bulk when you're trying to increase muscle mass. So if you're bulking, first up, we have to establish the most important thing with regards to protein, which is the daily allowance. So for bulking, we have at least 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram a day. Then we look at our schedule and we establish that we are going to spread out that protein by 3 hours apart. So let's say I have here a typical schedule for a typical person. Let's say you wake up at 7 a.m. You're eating your first meal at 8 and your last meal at 11 in the night, and you're eating 6 meals. So we are eating 6 meals with 3 hours apart, and we want at least 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram a meal to maximally stimulate protein synthesis. And then lastly, we have to respect the casein gods, and at least get 40 grams of casein before bed. So let's say, and I went completely, I was considering doing my own self. I weigh 200 pounds, that equates to 90 kilos. But then I say, oh fuck it, man, I'll just use a round number, 100 kilogram male. That way the math is really easy, and even for you guys, you can follow along better because it's 100 kilograms multiplied by these conversion factors, and you can better get a feel for it. So let's say we have a 100 kilogram male. That's around 225 pounds. 225 pounds. Let's say we have a 100 kilogram male. Now we multiply that by 2.2. We get that guy needs to eat 220 grams of protein a day, 3 hours apart, and at least 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram a meal. Now, if we only eat 0.3 grams per kilogram a meal, we will only get 30 grams of protein per meal. Now, the problem is, this is where you have to be kind of an engineer when constructing these meal plans. The problem is that if we only eat 30 grams per meal, 30 times 6, we will only eat 180 grams of protein per day. And what did I say at the beginning? The most important thing is total. So we need to bump that meal per meal number up from 30 grams to 37 grams of protein a meal. So now we have 220 grams of protein per day, 3 hours apart, 37 grams of protein per meal, and in the last meal we have 40 grams of casein. Simple. If you want to gain muscle mass, you can apply these conversion factors, this model, and equate it to yourself, do the math, and everything will be maximized for you. In terms of protein synthesis, this is a meal for bulking with regards to muscle protein synthesis. This is to maximize muscle protein synthesis. Now, when cutting, if you can remember, we need to increase protein intake. So the cellular pathways that control for protein synthesis actually downregulate when you're in a caloric deficit. So when you're cutting, you need to ring the bell harder, the protein synthesis bell, by eating more protein. So we go from 2.2 grams to 3 grams per day, of 3 grams per kilogram a day. That equates to 300 grams. We're still using the 100 kilogram male. That equates to 300 grams of protein a day. Now, 3 hours apart, same schedule. Same schedule. That equates to 50 grams of protein per meal. What I did was I had the 300 grams, which is my total, my goal, and I divided by my meals, which are 6 times 5, 30. So 50 grams of protein per meal. We are going well above the 0.3 grams per kilogram a meal recommendation, but again, the total amount of protein is the most important thing. So we need to respect that above everything else. And then in the last meal, we already have 50 grams of casein, so we are actually even above the 40 grams of casein before bed. So we are covered that. So we did the bulking and the cutting. Now we go next level and we use the theories that we talked about in the last paper, if you can remember, by Il-Young Kim, update on maximal anabolic response to dietary protein, and we use that to construct a meal plan that both maximizes muscle protein synthesis and suppresses muscle protein breakdown to the utmost extent. I call this a next level approach. You can be your own scientist when regards to anything that is experimental. You can play around with it, see if going next level actually helps you, if you get leaner, or if you can increase your muscle mass just by going above and beyond what is typically or more averagely recommended. So, next level stuff. We have 4.2 grams per kilogram a day. That's our recommended daily allowance. Our recommended daily allowance based on next level premise. So 4.2 grams per kilogram a day to max out our lean body mass gains and possibly reduce muscle protein breakdown as far as 80%. So we want to max out our lean body mass gain and or by suppressing muscle protein breakdown. And of course, with regards to muscle protein synthesis, we are well above and beyond what we actually need to increase muscle protein synthesis. So that's covered. Now, if we do that with respect to our 100 kilogram male, we have 420 grams of protein a day. And of course, we are way above the 0.3 grams of protein per meal. So we divide that by the 6 meals that we have available for us during the day, with 3 hours in between them, and we get 70 grams per meal. So if you are going next level, you should be multiplying your protein intake. Your conversion factor is 4.2 grams times your weight. In this case, 100 kilograms equals to 420 grams divided by the 6 meals. You get 70 grams a meal. And that's how you go next level on your protein intake.